Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Catch Table and Tap here at Merrillville, corner of 30 and Broadway. This is Region Sports Table Talk, where we sit and talk with the coaches. Nathan Laird here, joined by Doug Ashenbaugh. Doug, you and I have co-hosted the last couple of weeks. We've talked a lot of Griffith football, so we figured, why not bring in a living legend here, Coach Russ Radtke. Coach, thanks for joining us.
I'm so glad I'm living in it.
That's true. And when I called you and asked you to be on the show, you said as long as there are no calves being born today, you'd make it. And, if I had called, say, a Chris Skinner or a Roy Richards or anything and asked them, and they gave me that answer, I'd say, all right, they really don't want to do the show. But with you, it's a legitimate possibility that you might not be able to make it because some calves are being born.
Well, you evolve women, you never know what's going to take place. So the lady cows all did the right thing at the right time, and we had our lap calf about a week ago.
How many do you have on the farm?
Well, that's where we put them in a lot of different places so the government doesn't know. Like open range, But there's a processing of the cows, the feeders, and the whole thing. So there's probably close to 150, 200 head.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some of your side projects, if you will, later on between the farm and some of the other activities you have going on. It's not all football today. We're going to talk a lot of football, of course.
Coach, I've been married 50 years, too.
50 years?
Oh, congrats, Coach.
I got a notice last June that I was going on a cruise to Alaska, but this is their 50th wedding anniversary, and they were going to make sure that I don't do anything wrong.
Okay.
So they put me on a boat.
And how was the cruise?
It wasn't bad until we had the avalanche in Alaska, and the whole thing crushed into the side of the ship. They try to blame that on me, but regardless, it was fun. But it was a different situation, and you got to be lucky sometimes. I've got a wife that's been with me for over 50 years.
That's amazing.
All this stuff like there, and she grew up right next to us. I mean, we were. Our farms are not more than about a mile and a half from each other.
Wow.
So our families knew each other, and I had no idea at that time, until I was almost a sophomore or junior, that she was important to me. And as a result of that, that's where we're at today. So
50 years is amazing. That's an amazing achievement. And the life of a coach's wife, I'm sure, can't be that easy. And especially when, your husband's the coach and then you have 3 sons playing through it and everything, that a lot of patience, I'm sure, on her side.
She was the boss most of the time.
There we go.
Coach
knows what to say on air.
Yeah. So when I find out about it when I got home, whether or not I was doing the right thing at the right time.
So, again, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. And, again, talking about your career, a recent inductee into the Indiana High School Football Hall of Fame, second all-time in wins in state history, an over 700 winning percentage in your head coaching career. 388 career wins. Did you ever think when you started off this journey being a head coach, we'll talk about your start, that numbers like that would be anything you could achieve?
Well, no. Yeah, I don't think you ever try to come up with an idea of what you want to try to attain by victories and losses, because the important thing is just try to play as many games as you can, provide an environment for the young men that they can excel, and then you get a lot of those victories from the fact that you make tournament runs. And if you can get into that 6-week cycle after the regular season's over, that's when you get a lot of fun times and competitiveness. And you just try to think of how you can keep players healthy for 6 weeks. We've had players that had an appendectomy in the first week of the sectional and still made it back to the state championship game.
Wow.
And got in the game. So it happens that way, that the period that goes all the way up to Thanksgiving is a long time. And if you can maintain a lot of opportunities to win. We did that right away when I was at Northwestern. We started, in fact, our very first year, we were already in a tournament run. Mm-hmm. So if you get that going and have an opportunity for the young men, especially with those coming through young and so forth, and get the names and so forth following you, there's some great traditions you can build.
Yeah, you talk about, obviously, staying healthy, the wishbone. I absolutely love the wishbone, right? What made you really want to gravitate towards the wishbone and run that option and be that hard-nosed pound ground?
Being an assistant coach at Hammond Gavitt, I coached with John Quinn, who made a run into the state championship. We didn't make it to the state championship. We got beat by South Bend, Washington, 14-7 at Morton in a sellout crowd that was filled to the capacity, and it was two wishbone teams going at each other. They beat us, and then the next week they beat, I believe, it was South Indianapolis, Washington for the state championship. So that wishbone option is all I ever learned. You know, that's all I ever was taught and so forth, and the option game of it, and with Paul Brush and Kajawa and John Quinn that Hammond Gavin had got instilled, and I still got our playbooks from that first era.
Same one still using?
I don't necessarily. You got to remember, it's not drawn in the technological computer systems and process. Okay?
Oh, I remember those cards that were hand drawn cards.
Right. Yeah, but it definitely gives you an opportunity, and you really have got kids that have got to believe in it, and it gives a lot of players a lot of opportunity to play. And even though today we're not necessarily in the wishbone formation, we are option football. You never know who's going to have that ball. And the best thing that you can do is not dictate that one player is going to do it all. You're going to make sure that everybody shares in it offensively. And then, of course, there's a player by the name of David Hall. You guys probably heard of him. Reporter for the Chicago Bears.
Yep, he's on the score.
The Chicago Tribune and so forth. And used to cover Notre Dame. I think he's still ranked about number 7 or 8 in the history of football for receptions and yardage that he did. So you can catch the ball too, and
the haul route out of the backfield.
Exactly right. That's right. Exactly right. Because one of his big assignments, and he had another brother. I don't know whether it was David or his brother, whether the name was given to, but we still use that same route. That when it's got to come out of the backfield, running that
swing pass out of the backfield.
Pass is coming out of there, that haul route's got to be covered. We use it more for defense than offense, but we usually use players' names and so forth. I can't think of anything bad I've ever used Ashton ball in there before. But,
well, not that we can say on it.
But we definitely bring it up, and your brother's name's Christian, right?
Yep.
And I can remember him getting a penalty one time in a ball game, and that
just
referee come by, and he says, "I got a 15-yarder on your center." I go, "My center? What in the world he had done?" Coach is using some foul language out there.
That sounds
I said, his name is Christian. How could you give a 15-yard penalty to a young man whose mother decided to call him Christian? And I go, "Can you back it off to a 5 or 10 instead of 15? But it definitely
that is the least surprising story about him ever, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But all the questions that you ask and so forth, when you played Griffith, or especially that 19 years we were here at Griffith, you played wishbone. You know what you were going to go against. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. It didn't matter when you kids came in to Pop Warner and started playing 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You already knew what you were going to be, a fullback, or you're going to be an offensive lineman tied in. Not very many wanted to be the quarterback. That's rough. That's tough.
You got to make those split-second decisions.
Oh my gosh, and then you got to call the right audible and do the right thing. So the other positions, a lot of kids found what they wanted to do, and that instilled in them that tradition that was just phenomenal, how we could reload year after year.
That one of the things you liked about that offense, though, that, again, the players in that system grew up knowing the ins and outs of it before they even got to the varsity team. But the opposition kind of did as well. There was nothing really that different on film. It was basically, here's what we're running. Try and stop this. And, yes, you made in-game adjustments and everything depending on personnel, but, again, the opposing team really didn't get many surprises except for, the occasional green 8 mount 7 or something like that.
You're exactly right. Because the individualized blocking assignments or something like that can tweak just a little bit. And you think you got a whole completely different play, the opponent does, but all we did was switch where we're going to, what hole, and how the assignment's going to be done.
Who the read key is.
And find out exactly that thing. I mean, I can remember playing LaPorte a couple times, and they said they would practice all summer. We had it all down, Coach. Everything was ready. We knew you were going to run that belly series on the first play and a fullback here and halfback here, and in this series, and I got you popping for a touchdown. And that's the thing about it, that if you can execute it in a way, you're going to give yourself a greater percentage. There's not very many perfect plays. We've been there at Knox now for going into our 4th year. And in that time, there's only been one perfect play where all 11 assignments, all blocks, all schemes, and the touchdown takes place, and every one of the 11 players do it right. Because if they all would do that every time,
touchdown every time.
Well, it would be like a robot. I don't know if anybody would enjoy that all the time.
Yeah, I think you would.
You would. But by halftime, I'll let you know whether or not you mess up one or two. The only advantage we have today is that we have the videotape. We have the ability to see a play.
Yeah, and one of the things with the option offense, Coach, is, like you had kind of talked about too, that you don't have to have D1 players at every position. Kind of the intense deception, if you will, is a big part of that offense and a big part of that success, that you got guys who know what they're doing. They got to be smart at all the positions. But it kind of, the deception makes up for the lack that you don't have to have 5-star athletes at all the spots.
But not only that, if you're the fullback like Ashball was, or if you're the halfback or whatever, if you want your turn, you better do what you have to do for him, because if you don't carry out your fake, if you don't act like you have the ball, even though somebody else has it, or if you hand it off and you just stand there and look at it, then that means they've got 11 on defense and you only got 9 or 8 on offense. You got to make it 11 on 11 all the time. It's only a fair way to do it. So you have to block, you have to fake, and you have to continue to carry out your out, because you might not know when it's going to be that one. Oh, this is where you won't know when you're going to get that chance.
Right.
But when I give it to you, you better go. And you better realize that you've gotten that opportunity from the fact that they took away the first read, or they taken away the second read. And now it's gone to the third read. And if they never take the first read away, then I can't get it to you. I'm sorry. But that's just the way it is. Eventually, you got to get that defense. You got to trick them. You got to get them to try to do something that they're not ready for. And if you can get them to suck into something and go down to where you'll see them on the sidelines, there's some coach going, I told you to take the fullback all day long. You're both thinking, we didn't have the ball, Coach. Well, okay, there he is. You see, well, my guy,
Is that how you got most of your yards?
I'm pretty sure. That had some good tailbacks, halfbacks behind me that a lot of people keyed on.
That keyed on the option. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you eventually, human nature, they'll break what they felt that they were, they want to get the tackles. Right. They want to do things, okay? And then your offensive lineman the same way. We're never going to ask you to have to take a person and take him from here to there, unless you are an All-American.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Because we're going to be playing against some All-Americans or college players that we're going to fake out and make them do something they're not ready for, and then you're basically just screening them or staying in between, creating holes. I mean, we've had some players that are so bad, I just say, just go down the field and flop. It's called a flop block. And then they go, what's a flop block?
That was Laird, wasn't it? That's what it came after.
You get down the field, and if you do nothing else, just flop on the ground, and somebody's either going to have to go over you or around you.
Yeah.
And if they go around you, don't hold them. But if they decide to go over you, get up. And then they flop on the ground. But that's not, we seriously try to make sure that the words and the terminology all work together and make things happen. And like I'm saying today, the offense is even, like you said, I started back in I think it was 72 or something like that, coaching with him and Gavitt. And what we do with the option game today compared to then is phenomenal. You got to grow with it. You got to advance. Defenses do things. They get faster. They platoon. They slant. Right. They cheat. Like right here, that could be an O, right? But if that O is bigger than that there, that's a bigger person. That's a bigger player. And if all mine are those, I got to figure out a way to spread them out, put them out there wider, find out if they're going to get on the inside, they're going to get on the outside. And those are all the theories and the fun part of it. And, Esball asked, why did we do? I don't know anything else. If I would have started out with an I team or a veer team or something else, run and shoot, or all the things like Hobart had done with the wing T and so forth. They still have wing T clinics and wing T all over the United States, like the Delaware wing T, okay? But there ain't much wishbone stuff around anymore. That's okay with me. The less of them around, the less they can go find out what's going on. And I usually don't work too many clinics because I don't like to tell everybody everything.
All right, so we'll take some of this out. So then we go in the details of the offense. We'll edit that out. So. Oh, no, we won't. So when you played at North Judson, your high school career, did you play under Coach Thornton?
I did.
What kind of offense did you guys run there? Because he's kind of synonymous with that.
He was. It was called the short punt, which was an advancement of the single wing. And in the short punt offense, there was the same number of backs in the backfield, but the center could snap it to any of the different spots.
Oh,
he had to be quite ability. He could swing it around to the quarterback, direct straight back to the tailback, and then he'd have it short punt on the right. He could snap it to one of the two backs on the right, and then they could rehand it off. And but there wasn't much option in it and so forth. And then he advanced from that, and his years at Judson after I had left and went on, he started advancing into the wishbone and so forth in that direction.
Do you ever think about bringing that short punt offense back, or?
Well, again, the fact that it isolates the ball with one person once it's there. It would have misdirection handoffs in the backfield, but you were never going forward. And then there's a person there. I'm going to another person. I'm going to another person. The Chicago Bulls ran an offense when they won all the championships and so forth. I can't remember what they called it, but it was wishbone on the basketball court.
The triangle style.
Triangle offense. That's what it's called. Triangle offense. Okay, and a lot of people tried to duplicate it or see what. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to mess it up. And if you think you're going to run a wishbone or come up with that option, and you don't understand those philosophies, but that's what the triangle really is wishbone on hardwood.
So we have the region Phil Jackson right here.
Well, sometimes they can be called that type of a concern, but we just try to always make sure that whoever was on that team and wanted to stay with us and played was given the best opportunity to enjoy his 4 years in high school. And we didn't coach him against anybody else. We didn't try to say, well, if he can do it, why can't you do it? Or you're expected to do it if you're going to try to play that spot. You just are given so much God-given ability, and that ability we try to just dwell on and find a way to maturate it to where you can get everything done all the time. And I'm sure there's been some players that might have moved away or whatever and realized they weren't going to get the ball 25, 30 times a game.
Right.
They'd rather be somewhere else. Well, then that's where they went. So we're never going to change what our philosophy is to making sure that everybody's the same. And like you just tweak it a little bit. Just come up with some scheme to it to make it work to our advantage.
So, Coach, I got to ask you this one question then. All right?
One question.
maybe we're
ahead of ourselves
here. Yeah. What's the best team you ever seen run that wishbone offense? I think I may know the answer, but maybe you may surprise us.
You wanted to say one of the teams you were on, don't you?
I think there's one team that puts another team for run for their money there. But what would you say the best team you've seen run that wishbone offense?
It was Oklahoma in college.
Under Barry Switzer?
Yep.
Okay. And then what about for you coaching specifically? One of your teams.
One of our teams run the wishbone offense. Boy, I tell you, it all has to do with that quarterback. When I was at North Judson, Kurt Mans was something that could really phenomenal basketball player that played quarterback for us. The three Radke boys ran the option to a T right here. Boy, when we went to New Prairie, we had a quarterback that's now a walk-on at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Can you jar my memory which one you're thinking of?
97.
97 was the first one with Shane, obviously. Right.
Well, that might not have been the best team.
Yeah.
You had track stars in the backfield.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
And a punishing fullback, too, in Tommy Garage.
The next one would have been the 2005 team at Griffith.
With Rogowski?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that group was something, too, that you just got to, it's just Griffith knew how to do things because we were a roll up our sleeves, blue collar.
Yeah.
If the parents said we're doing it, we're doing it.
Right.
I remember calling the Butkus' house one time.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother answered the phone, and I said, well, hey, the Butkus boys aren't here in the weight room. Well, they said they were there today. I said, well, they may have been here, but we're still here, and I haven't seen them for a while. Well, they're both here at the table. I said it might be advantageous to bring them back. So, Dad,
they were back pretty quick.
Dad Butkus walked them down the hallway. The two boys walked straight down in behind him. Said, boys, in there. When he tells you to come to dinner, we'll be waiting. And so that same type of thing with that 2005 team, man, they could really they were a lot of misdirection and break a lot of tackles, and they would even honestly they would even have the ball going down the field, and the fullback would get in front, and then the other two halfbacks would get up the block, and then the fullback would pitch it back to the quarterback going around the corner. So that was a 4.
Yeah.
I didn't coach that.
That was just improv on the fly.
Just improv on the fly and enjoy the game. You know, it's what do you have in rugby? Squams or what do you have?
Scrums?
Scrums?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
You don't want to tangle in the mix, but boy, when the thing gets clicking and gets going, you can even do it in bad weather and good weather. Right. That was the other advantage, you know.
Big advantage there.
Well, the games we were in was just pouring down rain. I can remember Fort Wayne Dwenger.
Semi-state.
Fort Wayne.
Half the lights were out. The referees came over and said, well, we got to decide what to do. We can't get any crew in here because they're out at the airport trying to solve the problem. And he says, we can either go home and come back tomorrow. And I said, well, that ain't going to be a good idea.
That wasn't
we can't get them fixed. I said, we'll play with half the lights. And the air coach said, okay. And the half the side of one side was completely out. We were in a baseball stadium at Concordia. And snow, the 25-second clocks got blown out.
Yeah.
I had no idea where the field lines were.
Down marker
but
was there.
My gosh, it was clicking. Our offense was clicking, and they were getting yardage. And once we got their eye-off formation straightened out and stopped them, it could do it in the cold, the heat, the rain. Kids could practice it, work on it, and they could bring themselves along all the time. And so, who was the quarterback in the 205 team?
Matt Nelman.
Oh yeah. He was a lineman at quarterback. That's what he was.
Exactly.
Big feet.
That's right.
Well, talking about the field condition, talking to region football fans and everything doing this job, people always say, "Oh, before Griffith got the turf, by the end of the year that field was all torn up. It was off to play on." It's kind of like that was the point.
Yeah, it was concrete.
Can you confirm that? Maybe the field.
Well, there's one team. One year we played a regional. I think it was there. And it did rain and pour so hard that we never finished the game, and Frankfurt went home and came back the next day.
We were talking about that last week. Yep. You were trying to get him to stay in the field house.
And well, we stayed in the field house until we ran out of pizza.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about
there
that.
There was no more pizza to sell in the concession stand. I said, okay, that's it. We're going to have to play tomorrow. So we could restock the concession stand for next day. But we brought the stuff out you put on baseball diamonds.
like the quick dry.
Yeah, that stuff's got like sharp little stones and so forth in it, you know. And so I can't remember how many bags or tons we put on that field to dry it up at least for the next day. But you're exactly right. The conditions and when we came to Knox, not to change it, they said, well, we got it on the plan to build to put turf on. You want turf? I said, nope. I said, no way. I said, first thing, we're out in the country.
Right.
Right? And we're going to have something that's going to just sit there and radiate heat off and whatever.
Yeah.
I said, you could give me a practice field someday so we could do it when it's muddy and rainy. But no, take it and put it some other direction. They took it and threw it into brand new weight rooms and a field house. So the facility, football's to be played on grass.
100%.
100%. And then you'll see it recycled. It's like anything else. A lot of these fields, and I understand now the NFL has really got a union thing working on it, that they are considering in the next few years or whatever, that these fields like Arizona.
Oh, where they grow the grass, like it's natural grass outside. Vegas has that.
And then they can have 2 or 3 different fields brought in by railroad tracks and so forth and set it down or
roll it in.
So that's the right way to do it, I think. And it's just that necessity of calling for saving money, I think, because you're not going to have the fertilizer and the mowers and the water. It's not going to be comparable because every 10, 12 years you're going to get new turf.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, if it was my choice at the house, we would have turf in the living room, but my wife says we got to have carpet. So
yeah, the boss
carpet in there.
The boss
and
puts
we'll change,
down
but
again.
every 10 or 12 years, we got to get new carpets. You know, down on the farm, we just throw more straw in and clean it out, and off we go again.
There we go.
You still got the big sprinklers out there then?
Yeah, some of it's underground watering
process.
process.
Okay, all right, okay.
But we've been brought forward on the fact that why was the water sprinklers going Thursday night before the game when it was raining already? Sometimes the timers get mixed up, I guess. I don't know.
It's a mystery of life.
I don't know.
It's one of those things.
It's going to be one of those. You know, we had a team one time from South Bend that showed up over in New Prairie, and he says, "Well, my kids play like Cadillacs. They need highway interstate." I said, "Well, they're going to get a cow path at Bud tonight, buddy. I don't care what they want to play with." And we ended up beating by a couple of touchdowns, okay, because they didn't want to play it on that mud next time and so forth. We've had officials. Bob Carnegie, great official, made great calls all the way. He made the call down in Indianapolis on a touchdown when in a 5A championship where the ball came in and the player got hit right at the goal line on the last play, but the ball bounced back. He looked in and said it was no good because the ball did not cross the line. And with all your replays and everything, he was exactly right.
Wow.
Well, one of the games he did for us at New Prairie, he left his game shoes on the field. He says they are so stinking dirty, wet, and whatever. And he walked all the way to the locker room in stocking feet because he says, "This field's done. I'm done. I ain't going to wear these shoes ever again." And he left them sitting right out on a 40, 50-yard.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. We got to take a time out. When we come back, Coach, we're going to talk about how you got started coaching. Munster roots, apparently. We'll get to that after this break. We'll see if that legend is true as well. So we got more table talk coming up from Catch Table and Tap here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strack and Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use and it can save you time and money. Once your order is in, our own Strack and Van Til team preps your order with care. For delivery or pickup, enjoy the convenience of letting our to-go team shop for you. Enjoy your special moments. Sign up online today at shop.strackandvantil.com.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Back here from Catch Table and Tap here in Merrillville 30 and Broadway, joined by Coach Russ Radtke of the Knox Redskins, former New Prairie, Griffith, North Judson, Connorsville, second all time in the state in Indiana high school football history in wins. But Coach, your career got started. You talked about coaching at Gavitt. I had heard that your first technical coaching job was coaching flag football at Frank H. Hammond in Munster.
I've only had one assistant coach that coached with me over all these 50 years.
Okay.
That's undefeated.
Okay. And that is?
And she
will
tell you how important it was for her to be on that team. But when I was in college, we got moved over to one of our college coaching classes. We went to John Friend.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Munster, and they had 4 elementary teams. Okay, and 3 of them were paid inside coaches of the whatever.
Right.
And the one that nobody wanted to coach, we got put to.
Of course.
And I'm having a problem remembering her name here, but she's from Griffith. She used to teach PE there for a long time. But Mike Weisdora and myself and this young lady were the coaches. And we got thrown the team, and it was like the Bad News Bears the first I tell you, we had it right there.
Coaching flag football. I can't picture it.
So you run the option then too?
It was anything that could work because we actually went undefeated.
There you go.
We beat everybody on the schedule. We played everybody twice. We got called on the line a couple times that we were doing things that weren't in the book of John Friend's offense. Because it was his feeder program.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And we had plays that were set up, and I don't have that playbook anymore.
That'd be something there.
That would be. But there you go. Not many people know you have a tie to Munster football, and
That's true. And undefeated. Well,
there you go. Undefeated. The only undefeated coach in Munster football history, right there.
And the first meeting with John Friend, and Mike Weisdor and I was not the most pleasant either.
Really?
Because we were in college with the long hair.
Okay. And from what I've heard from Coach
Friend had that same butch zoom right down to nothing on the forehead. And it was like, boys, this ain't going to work, And it was almost like, well, we don't get paid. Your other crew does.
We're keeping the hair?
We kept our hair.
There you go.
Kept our hair, But it was an experience, an opportunity. And I wish I could remember the young lady's name. She lived right there next to the superintendent's office. And like I said, I'll probably think of it here in a few minutes. But her name to fame is that she's the only coach that ever coached Coach Radke and won every game. So,
and I think you've told me before, too, football wasn't your initial intention to coach. That basketball was kind of in the plans?
In fact, right up to probably a week before the regular season of my assistant coaching job at Griffith, the U-Haul was packed. Everything was loaded. My wife of 50 years plus had already quit her job in the hospital. Everything was right there. And as I said, I had a graduate assistantship at Brigham Young University in basketball. Wow. And so somehow Les Thornton gave me a call because he got the job at Griffith. Mm-hmm. And he said, I need you to come up and talk to my staff to tell us what we have to do to beat Hammond Gavitt, because see, I was the 2 years at Hammond Gavitt prior.
Yeah.
So he wanted to know what at Hammond Gavitt they were doing.
And
And so after about an hour and a half of me going through everything, somehow by the time I got back home, he says, I need you to come back up tomorrow. I need you to meet our principal. I didn't think anything about it. And they got me in a room and they sat down and told me everything and why I should be a football coach instead. And I tried to explain that I got a graduate assistantship at Brigham Young University. And I remember Sam Cox was the principal.
Mhm.
He was probably your principal when you guys were there, right?
no, he was.
No,
You were
no,
in the
no.
principal's office that often to know the
No, I was well behaved.
Okay, all right. But he took
I have a story about that. We'll get to that later.
He took the telephone out and set it on the desk and says, it's only going to take one phone call for me to get that straightened out. And that showed me that for the first time, what administrators really, if they want something, if they want it to be the right way, and they can move things in their direction that they have control of, and create a position for me to teach and to coach and to do things, and then for me to make my mother-in-law happy, and
not become a Mormon.
and then I came right back. I came right back up to Griffith. We bought a house right there on Klein Avenue, and started coaching right off the bat. And my wife got another job. She just got all the going away presents and everything about a month later at another hospital. So she went to another hospital. But that's kind of what you got to do.
Right.
And I always wondered, well, what would have happened differently? I don't know, but I just know football is more like playing bridge, whereas basketball is like checkers. And so when you're playing bridge, and you have to know where, or even the fact, what's the game with the pawns and so forth? Chess also. Chess and bridge are not like euchre and checkers. It's helter-skelter in those games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's back and forth, but boy, you got to do some thinking. Where do you put that? And I'm a lot better, I think. I'm not bad in being able to try to counter what the other person's doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not, like I said, I never thought I was going to be a football coach, and I never thought I was going to advance to a level of where we're at right now. All I know is that if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. So it doesn't matter if it's farming or family or work ethic or jobs or doing things with kids or whatever. We're going to do what's the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. So if that call from Coach Thornton comes a day later, you're
You're
at BYU,
and I don't know whether or not it's somehow he was able to do that. When you get a principal, an athletic director, and a superintendent on the same level, things can happen. Once one of those starts veering off a different direction, basically that's why we've been at 5 or 6 different schools, because you got to do what's right, and you can't lie. And you got to be right up front, and you got to sell loyalty, pride, and dedication. You got to show them that you're loyal, you're proud to be here, and you're dedicated to what we're going to do. You're not going to come in and say, "Well, one day, guys, I'm sorry, we're not going to be." No, there's no sorry. You told me we were going to do this, we're going to do it. And so you have to put your name on the line all the time in saying how we're going to get it done. And I think it really carries over to the kids, because they got to realize that, hey, I'm not playing this game for a salary 35, 40 years from now, okay, or a pension. This is what I got to be where I'm at today because of what we did together. When Desert Storm hit, and we were over freeing Kuwait. I think Kuwait was first, right?
Yep.
Operation Kuwait or something like that. It's about 2:30 in the morning. All of a sudden, I was in Connersville. 2:30 in the morning, I have a phone call ring. Wife goes, the phone's ringing. I go, there's no. She goes, yeah, I'm telling you, the phone's ringing. I went out, picked up the phone, and he says, Coach, this is Wyatt Schweiger. I said, how can this be Wyatt Schweiger? I go, you're in the military. And I don't think he'd be upset for me saying this. I got him in the military because he was in some trouble. And I remember sitting in front of a judge and said one or two choices. You either put him in the military instead of putting him in something else, and he'll do what's right. And he'll become a better human being from it as a result. And I did that in the Knox courthouse. I remember doing that. Well, he called me up and says, Coach, I tell you right now, we're going in. I go, you're going what? He goes, I'm in the Marines. He's an engineer, where he would go in ahead of time and survey, open up, set up lines, get everything, all the booby traps eliminated or whatever. And he says, by the time you get up in the morning, you'll know that we're here. We're going in. And he says, I'm calling you right now because I'm at a phone booth. I haven't even called my wife. I got one phone call. I'm calling you to tell you that if something goes wrong, you're going to take care of my wife and my kids. Wow. And there ain't much you can say now, you know, and those are some of the stories that are good, that show you where we have to have a guy like that in the military. You got to have a guy like that is going to realize that this might not be it. You know, I'm not coming back. Those guys hit the beaches in World War II and so forth on D-Day. And one of my sons went to the West Point.
Right.
And it was during all the situations that were occurring where we were having people terrorizing and so forth. And I remember one time coming up to West Point with him. He played West Point football. And I said, Shay, what if I would suddenly say, I'm going to pull a gun on you right now, and we're going right through that gate? He says, you won't make it to the gate, Dad. I said, and Tony said it. Told me that it wouldn't matter that I am his dad. You're not going to injure West Point. Right. If you do something wrong that's against the American way, family is always first, but the academy is more important, and everybody inside there. We'll both go down. We're not going to make it. And, you know, those are the type of things that we need to realize that we need more and more in the military today. And the way we played football, I don't know how many kids come back and say, Coach, you know, I don't know how many guys couldn't make it through basics. I go, what do you mean? They couldn't even make it through basics. I told them that our football practices was worse than ever compared to what this basics is that you think you're going to do, okay? I think one year, I can't remember, that the school was being built, its construction in Griffith. We had 31 days of all-day practice. 31 all days of practice.
Can't do that anymore, can you?
Legally, no. But I remember that when they finally said that school's going to start tomorrow, the whole team was like, God, we got to go to school.
And that's how you promote education. It gets them out of football practice.
We learned a lot while we were here. And those 31 days that went into all the way into September were all the way through. And those guys were, I'm pretty sure that group was playing for a regional championship too. So it does take a lot of things, and a lot of things individually happen that you can't be aware of. But you just try to touch base with them every day and realize that we're always going to tell them the truth. That's the most important part of society today.
You touched a little bit on the infamous slogan of Griffith, LPD, right? Is that where it started back when they pulled you in the room, Les, and the principal and the AD? You touched on it. Is that where LPD originated from?
Well, I probably I started it yeah, you're right, assistant coaching jobs and so forth. Because I did it at 2 years at Gavitt, 1 year here, and then at Mechanical I started at. I started spending a lot of times putting all the playbooks together and getting things ready for those first games and so forth at North Judson. But that LBD, that loyalty, pride, and dedication, you know, it's right there again, right there at Knox.
Yeah.
Right
there. LBD, it lives on.
It's a great slogan, and it's something that we believe in. And if you back away from one part of it, the other one's not going to work. Right. And you got to be loyalty first, and you got to have pride in what you are, and you're going to dedicate yourself to whatever that accomplishments have to be done. And you can't always dwell on it, but victories will come about in a lot of different situations. I've had a lot of people say, "Well, you can't do that." I've had a lot of. I can remember when I got my first coaching job. I walked into a hardware store one time, and one of the guys that was there was I don't think he was working there. He was an adult at that time, and I played with his son. And he says, "I told the school board you shouldn't get this job." I said, "Okay, all right, that's fine. Can you tell me why?" And he went through 2 or 3 steps. And I said, "Well, you just told me the 2 or 3 steps, and I'll make sure that I do right, and we will. And you shouldn't tell me that we can't."
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay. As long as it's possible, and there's a way to find a way to get it done, and legally do it, and making sure that you can find the money or whatever you can do for the kids and associate across that process, they'll pay the price. It's the same thing, and I'm sure the military. I've never been able to be in the military myself, but I'm sure it's that same thing. You know, we're not leaving anybody behind. There's no way anybody's not coming back. And when we're in this foxhole or whatever it is, and I told the boys, you know, sometime we're going to get backed in an alley. All right, and we're going to look around at each other, and we're going to have to figure out we're the only guys in this alley that's got the back to it. We got to get to the front. Now, how are we going to get there? And this is where we're at halftime. This is what we got to come up with ideals and how we're going to get that level to go there and get that maturation of the adrenaline flowing. And it's fun.
Right.
It's a great opportunity.
One of the things we've talked about here in this segment is, again, you getting started at Griffith and everything, and if you can tell us the impact that Les Thornton had on the Griffith program in particular, because people now think of all the success Griffith has. Well, before Coach Thornton there, they had some success under Tom Kurth, but then it was just kind of an average program. But then Coach Thornton really kind of took things to the next level, and then you took it to an even higher level from there. Can you talk about what an impact he made and his lasting impression on that Griffith football program?
Well, you remember Les Thornton was at North Judson and
Right.
took the Griffith job, and then there was one guy in between who went 1-9, and then we came into North Judson and went there for 10 years. So Lester had already been there, and then when I came into Griffith, he was on his way out retiring and going to Florida with his son. And so I walked in again behind him. And so when someone's already got the pedal to the metal and he's already got good vibes and ideals, you just find another gear.
Right.
And if you can find that overdrive or find another way to get it into the next level, he had a similar philosophy. I go to clinics with him all over the United States. Like, you asked me, I've sat at the table with Barry Switzers. I've been at camps and clinics all over from Cincinnati to Georgia to Oklahoma. You get around those guys and you listen. I don't think any of it is Russ Radtke. I think I stole everything. I'm the flim-flam man. I'm the guy that finds a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and grabs this and gets this, and just figures a way to try to put it together. And so, because I guarantee you, that I didn't have any training except to be a farmer. I never had any training. I wasn't a very good athlete in football. In fact, I wasn't very good at all, to tell you the truth. But you know why I played football? Because if you didn't play football, you ran cross country.
That's not a bad trade-off there.
So I played
Fair enough.
That's what a football coach and basketball coach had it worked out. And so you're not going to sit around.
Right.
And so the work ethic and so forth being brought from that and how we did it at that time, and your original question back to what we did with basketball and so forth, I don't know how you could coach high school basketball for 50 years.
Right. There's not many that have.
Trikoff tried.
Right.
but I don't think you can. It's just too much and over the time, and so that's why I coach football, but I referee basketball. So I still run around coming up with ideals and so forth, see what I can go in that direction. But it definitely football is a great opportunity because we get a lot of kids. If I could find a way to play with 12 or 13, I think it'd be even better than playing, for a chance to get more and more guys opportunity on the field.
There you go. All right, we got to take another time out here. We're back with more with Coach Radke here from Region Sports Table Talk after this here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Region Sports Network, the only game in town.